So it's 1992. I had just moved to Brooklyn, Park Slope, with my boy Peter Prince. And soon after we got into town, we got a call from a friend from Buffalo who was doing live sound for the return of the Brecker Brothers. So he invites us. He says, the guys are rehearsing. Why don't you come over, hang out, and then come to the show. So Pete and I get it together. We go over to the rehearsal spot. Michael Brecker, Randy Brecker, James Genus, Mike Stern. I mean, it was crazy. And Dennis Chambers. Now, I knew, or I was familiar with Dennis Chambers from P-Funk. At that time, I wasn't really familiar with anything else he had done or was doing. I just knew Dennis Chambers from P-Funk. So we get to the rehearsal spot and they're kind of getting it together and then start playing. Well, it was clear to me that the Dennis Chambers I knew from P-Funk was a different Dennis Chambers than this cat playing in this situation. The rehearsal was awesome. Brief conversations, but we didn't stay that long. And then we took off. And pretty sure the show was not that night, but the next night. Anyway, the show was at the bottom line. We had really great seats, pretty close to the stage, close enough. You see everything that's happening. And boy, was it happening. I mean, these cats were on fire. It was the Brecker Brothers, the return of the Brecker Brothers. Woo. So there were a couple moments that night that really changed things for me. One, I remember Dennis went into this drum solo, and at the beginning of the drum solo, he basically stopped playing, or was playing very little. But I remember over the PA, I heard this tst, 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 tst. Now Dennis was wearing headphones, so clearly he was like rocking to a click track. I don't know the whole night, but this particular instance, he was. So she breaks it down, you could hear it, and then he starts soloing. But dynamics were just incredible, just bringing it up, and he's just going crazy. I mean, straight just a kung fu drumming, a masterclass. I'd never seen anything like it, never heard anything like it, and it just got so loud, and just there was so much going on that I had forgotten about this click track or whatever. Anyways, you just listen to the solo. Bam! He was soloing the entire time over this click track. And when he stopped, it was just there. I was like, man, okay, that is not right. Show goes on. The next thing I remember, or the next thing that happened that I remember, like I said, Dennis was wearing these headphones, right? So he goes into this, they're all playing, they're all grooving. He goes into this drum fill from the snare, and then he's going to go all the way over the toms, which he had many of. It sounded like a machine gun, straight up. And as he kind of gets over here, like the headphone cable must have tugged because it came off of his left ear. So as he's going, he just continues to fill with one hand, which he was playing with two hands. He just continues with one hand, he fixed his headphones, and at the end of the fill, he goes, wham! Hits the cymbal underhand, like underneath the cymbal. At that moment, you knew everybody who in that room who was a drummer, because I saw this one cat fall out of his chair onto, he hit the floor. This cat hit the floor. Everyone was in shock. I had never seen anything like that, never heard anything like that. So, show ends. Everything was incredible. Going back to Brooklyn. And that excitement that that I felt from the show, the further I got away from the bottom line, going back to Park Slope, that excitement turned into confusion, dread, fear, and just an overall wanting to just give up. I straight up, by the time I got back to the apartment, I didn't want to play drums ever again. Straight up. I was like, man, I'm done. And that stayed with me for days. I was wrecked. I couldn't get this out of my head. I was just done, because I was like, I'm never, ever going to be able to do that. I was so messed up. And one day as I was kind of back on this trip, I heard a voice in my head. And I've heard voices have helped guide me, I should say, over the course of my life. But this time was very clear. It wasn't my own voice, but the voice said, there's room for everyone. That was it. And I knew at that moment that I was going to play, and I was going to play the way I play. I'm going to approach music the way I hear music, the way I feel music, because that's all that matters. So I went out to Sam Ash. I got myself this practice pad kit, set it up in my room, and I just played. I put on records. Either I had on my headphones or I had them through the speakers, depending on the time of day, and I just played to tunes. Because I remember my father doing that. When I was a kid, we would go down to the basement and he would be down there. He had another stereo down in the basement with some headphones, and he put on records and he'd play along to them. So it was just like kind of instinct. I just was like, all right, I'm just going to play the records and I'm going to just really figure this out. What I figured out was, again, just I'm going to be myself. I hear music a certain way, I feel it a certain way, and I'm going to play it as I hear it and feel it. Just be myself. So, if there's a moral to this story, there's room for everyone. So just do your thing. Everything's going to be all right. Listen to what the universe is telling you. It's guiding you. There's room for everyone. So, thanks, Dennis. That's it. Peace.